Shalom, welcome to this week's class, which is going to be called How to Stand Happily Before Hashem, and in brackets, when you step in to pray. Prayer tefillah. Okay, just getting a breath because this is going to be ludicrous speed. Alright, I'm going to speak very terse. This is a Jewish class. I will be speaking yeshivish for the sake of content delivery. Try to keep up, try to stay informed, pay attention. When you review the class, don't be afraid to break it up into small increments. The class came about as follows. Again, I'm not going to look at the camera as much. I want to focus in the text. If you can see, there's a lot of Sfarim open here. Sugya begins in the beginning of the 5th parak of Brachas. Om din li'yispalel ela matol kovid rosh, chasidim rishonim hayu yishoyin sha'achas mispalelin kedei shichvano Livam Levihim Shibishmayim. We stand to Lihit Palel. We did last year what Lihit Palel is, to serve God in your heart. We said that the halacha is to pray, a shopping list, and the chachma is something totally different. It's to serve God in your heart, which is tefillah. We're going to add a new word to our list this week. That is a concept, halacha l'Moshe Messinai. We define halacha l'Moshe Messinai, the concept of you have a mitzvah to serve God, a mitzvah to serve God in your heart. There's a concept called tefillah. It just is tefillah when you have a concept of serving God in your heart. That's called chachma. The Rabbanim knew how to take ingredients, put it together, and realize a matter of Torah. Right? There's an inyan of a pasuk, serve God, an inyan of a pasuk in your heart. There's a word in the world called tefillah. The Rabbanim knew that is what that is, right? When you are davening and praying, you are serving God in your heart. If you don't know that halacha to do that all day long, the Rabbanim then, B'diavad, set up 3 times a day to daven, where they give you a nusach, a seder of how to daven, and your yotzi. Your yotzi tefillah b'zmano the Rabbanin. You're also your yotzi b'deraisa. But if you want to have the real kavanah deraisa, then you have to know the chokhmah and pshita that you stand 3 times a day in tefillah b'zmana. But if you're standing in tefillah b'zmana, the Rabbanin, and you're already davening your heart all day long, why do I need to stand in my prayer 3 times a day? Right? I serve God 24/7. Why do I need now to stop and get ready for the minyan and daven with the minyan and then go back to my learning? Right? I'm learning and serving all day long. Why do I need to stop and do this? The Chassidim Rishonim did exactly that. They were learning hardcore, then they would prepare for an hour, they would daven for an hour, and then they would refresh their learning davening for another hour. So even though you'll say you're a deraisa yid and you're davening all day, there's an inyan to stop and daven 3 times a day. Once you're going to do that, how do I step into tefillah? Right? Do I want to step in with my sugya? Do I want to step in and tell Hashem how much I know? I've been learning and serving all day. Number 1, you don't step in with gaiva, you step in with kovid rosh. And then what does kovid rosh mean? You'll say it means an honorable or glorious head, right? No. I know it might sound like that, but kovid rosh, I think, this is my opinion, has a connotation of heavy. Heavy. Your head cannot stand up. Why? Rashi says, hichma, subordinated head. And it means you face down, you're facing your heart, and you're praying. Kovid means heavy. And we're going to explain through the shir why it means a heavy head. But the point is, the head is the most important limb, says the Meforshim. It's subordinate, you lower your head. So kovid, it's an honorable thing, but literally, you drop the head, it's a heavy head. Now, we're going to skip to 31a in Brachos 5th parak. We come across a passage. Tanu Rabbanim. Ein oim din lispalel lo matoch din v'lo matoch dvar halacha lo matoch halacha psuka. V'hechi dami halacha psuka. Amar Abaye ki hada Rabbi Zera dam Rabbi Zera banos Yisrael chmiru al atzman shal fila royas tipa dam ke chardal yoshevet aleya sheva nakim. We don't stand the daven except under these conditions. We do not do it metoich din. I want you to be aware. Write this down. Write this down. We need to know by the end of this year a certain number of words. One word is, what does it mean hitpalel? Number 2, what is din? Number 3, what is davar halacha? Number 4, what is halacha psuka? Number 5, what is halacha psuka as an example of halacha l'Moshe Sinai of the Benot Yisrael? They are a case in the Rishalmi of halacha l'Moshe Sinai. So you do not stand in din, you don't stand in dvar halacha. Only in halacha psuka can you stand a davin, like the case of tamei women, and the Rishalmi calls that a case of halacha Moshe Sinai. Thus, you should be standing to daven within your heavy head, latent with halacha Moshe Sinai. That's what the Gemara gives us to work with. Now, how we're going to iron this out is a bit interesting. I'm not sure the best passage. We're going to figure it out as we go. I want to give over the halacha l'maisa first. Halacha l'maisa. I want to know how to daven, Rabbi. Okay? I cannot daven in din or in a devar halacha, but halacha psuka I can daven. Is that correct? Machaber Shulchan Aruch. This is in 93.3. And again, we came to this tonight in the sugya, and the interest was, can we get a chiddush in the Shulchan Aruch? That's our challenge for this learning session. Can we take a pashit little Gemara in Brachas, the 5th parak, a random brisa, in on the spiral, lomatok din, lomatok dvar halach, lomatok dvar halach psuka, and come out with a mamish groiser chiddush in the Shulchan Aruch lashon itself? Nafka mina, is the Shulchan Aruch a great sefer or just a halacha book? Ein omdim lispalel metoch din v'lo metoch halacha shelo yeh libo tarud ba ela metoch halacha psuka. Literally, we don't stand to daven in the midst of din and not in halacha, that our heart should not be busy in these things, rather in the midst of a halacha psuka. For contrast, let's go to the Rambam. I'm going to do the Rambam, and then I'm going to close the Rambam. I'm not going to touch the Rambam again. Pay attention. You've heard the Mechaber. You've heard the Gemara. You notice that there's a difference already from the Mechaber and the Gemara. Before I actually do the Rambam, pay attention. Gemara says Ein Din with a nun at the end. The Mechaber says Ein Din with a mem at the end. Ein Din lispalel, Ein Din lispalel, lo metoch din, v'lo metoch dvar halacha, rather metoch halacha psuka. Mechaber Ein Din lispalel, metoch din, v'lo metoch halacha. Shelo yeh libo tarud ba ela metoch halacha psuka. Why does the Mechaber change the nusach from the Gemara? That's going to be the impetus of our chiddush. Why does he change it? It sounds very pashut to me. I'm very happy. I don't need to know the Mechaber. Rashi is going to come and say, what is halacha psuka? Should be your next question. She'ena sricha iyun shelo yeh mehir horba b'tefilaso. That you shouldn't need, that feel the need of iyun. We all know there's iyun and bekiyas. You do not step into tefillah with iyun on your head. That's not covered rosh. Yeh mehir horba b'tefilaso. When you're thinking about the sugya, rather than davening to God, that's not covered rosh. That's, let me think. Your chin's pointed up. You don't want to point up. You want to point down. So if you're going to daven with your whole head filled with sugyas, you're going to be sitting there, You don't want to do that. You want it down. Therefore, sugya, pilpul, as the Shulchan Aruch Meforshim will say, not shaykh. Halacha psuka, this is the Magen Avraham. Dahainu shalo yasuk bepilpul, kleidem tefila, aval im asuk bepilpul, v'yizchilu at tzibor, yispalel mehem, uprat idna, she'ein mikvanim. Right? If you happen to be there, okay, you can do it. It's not usher to daven, but if they're mamish not with the tzibor, don't feel the need to daven. Right? They're head down, and you're in the sugya, and they say, "Can you be the 10th man in the minyan?" It's up to you. You don't have to. It's probably better if you don't. Let them find their 10th guy. Hashem always sends a 10th guy. That's the Magen Avraham there. Now we're going to go back to our friend the Rambam. Again, let's see if we can find a difference here. Hilchas Tefillah, Paradalid, Halacha Yudches. L'chein ein omdin. He's going to show me that nun at the end. So he's like the Gemara itself. Lispalel, lo mato schok, lo mato kalos. Write these down. Schok, kalos rosh, which the Gemara says is the opposite of kavod rosh. And kalos rosh means bothered or just stepping through the motions. That's what the Rashi commentary says. Lo mato sicha, lo mato mariba, lo mato kas, lo mato ela. Write this down. I wrote those down. Those words: mariba, kas, sicha, schok, kalos rosh. How do you daven then? Metoch divrei Torah. Now you've all heard the word deraisa. You've been told that deraisa means the Torah, correct? Deraisa, as we find out in the Perush Targum Yonason on Megillas Esther, where the word eraisa is used, it means divrei Torah. Dot is divrei Torah. Rosh Tevis, Dalid Taf. Divrei Torah is deraisa, which means the Chumash, Oral Torah, Kabbalah, Nevi'im, and all the Chidushim through time of things that you have to say are true, like davening, serving God, and in your heart is tefillah. Is that a Chiddush? Serving Hashem by a pasuk, in your heart by a pasuk, is tefillah. Is that a Chiddush? Yes. Who made that Chiddush? Chazal. That's called Halacha L'Moshe Messinai. Tefillin, right side longer, like the Chasadim of Kabbalah. The left side, the thing, the ning, the nan, right? What is tefillin? It has to be. The Chachma realized there's a thing called tefillin, and there's what tefillin is. It just is. Halacha L'Moshe Messinai. Divrei Torah deraisa. Rambam says you can only daven in Divrei Torah. Meaning once you know all of your Torah, for as far as you're concerned, it's the whole Torah, what you know. You're not working on anything. You've worked it out. That's why, like the Chassidim Rishonim, wherever that is, here, the Chassidim Rishonim, they worked it out. They were there an hour beforehand. They worked it out. They got it to what's called Halacha Psuka. It's in their head. It's good to go. That's called Divrei Torah deraisa. Again, for all intents and purposes, it's the whole Torah that you know. Divrei Torah Kedei Shelo Yelibo Taru B'Halacha. You don't want your heart busy in halacha when you're davening. Sound familiar? Machaber adds the words Shelo Yelibo Taru Ba. The Gemara does not say that. We want to know why. Why doesn't the Gemara mention the lave? And why does the Machaber want to give me lave? And why does the Rambam want to give me lave? And nobody else wants to mention the lave. Ela Matai Divrei Torah. Why Divrei Torah dot, which is Torah without machlaikis? Know that word, machlaikis. Machlaikis. We do not daven in machlaikis. She'ein behen iyon kagon halachas psukas. We Divrei Torah behalacha ela matot Divrei Torah she'ein behen iyon kagon halachas psukas. Halachas psukas has no iyon. We don't want iyon. Not before we daven. That's the Rambam. The Rambam, you should know, sounds like the Rishomi. He brings the system of the Rishomi. I'm going to close the Rambam, and I'm not going back to the Rambam. But I will bring you the Rishomi. This is Rishomi Brachas, chapter 5, Halacha Aleph. Lo Yamud Adam V'Yispalel. Sound familiar? He's going to shomer a different girsa. Lo Yamud Adam V'Yispalel. He does not say Ein Ein Din L'Hispalel. Lo Mato Sicha. Sound familiar? V'lo Mato Schok. Sound familiar? V'lo Mato Kalos Rosh. Sound familiar? V'lo Mato Dvarim B'Telim. Ela Mato Dvar Shel Halacha. Dvar Shel Torah. I don't know what a Dvar Shel Torah is yet, but you should write that down because that's another word. Now the Rambam, if you notice, sounds very similar to that. A whole cheshbon, what not to do, then he tells us what to do. And then the Gemara here goes on a bit of a tangent about the words of the Nevi'im. Right? Shechem Etzenu b'Nevi'im Rishonim Shahayu Chotmin Es Divrayim Divrei Shevach Divrei Nachamos. Right? They always end on a happier note. Rambam says, hey, that sounds like Eitzah Tova. That sounds like good counsel. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to tell you a bunch of stuff bad, and then I'm going to end on a really happy, simcha, leiv tov, good note. The Rambam is basically saying, I am a chassid of the Talmud. And you'll say, probably the Talmud Bavli. And that's wrong. You see, he's also a chassid of the Talmud Rishomi. And he does exactly what they say to do. He takes it hard and schwer and makes it simchadik and happy at the end, that you should have nice, easy Torah. Then there's another girsa. Further along, Rav Yirmiyah Amar, Lo Yamud Adam Yisparlel Elam Atov Din Shel Halacha. What make up your mind? Is it a Devar Shel Torah or Din Shel Halacha? Good question, isn't it? Write that down. Another word, Din Shel Halacha. I'm going now to close the Rishalmi. We're done with the Rishalmi. Keep in mind, the Mechaber is the final word. Why? Because he wrote it last. Aside and irrelevant of the fact that we poskin like this, assuming we do poskin like the Mechaber, which, by the way, the Mishnah Berurah is mamish maskim here, not a problem. But notice what he does. Ein oimdim lispalel matok din v'lo matok halacha. What did you hear in the last sheet of the Rishalmi? You heard a din shel halacha, correct? Here the Mechaber says, break it up. There's din and there's halacha. Why does he do that? We're going to find out. But his answer is halacha psuka, which is all the way the Rambam ended his discourse. So here we see a cholent. A lot of things cooking. Remember, Tana Rabbanin in the Gemara. Ein ein din isparlel. Lo matok din. There's your din. Lo matok devar halacha. Why does the Gemara say devar halacha? And the Mechaber just called it halacha. And the Rambam, the Rishomi called it devar Torah and a din shel halacha. Why are these words mixed up like this? That's the question. Now let's leave the Gemara for a second, and we're going to now go to the Torah Shulchan Aruch. Torah Shulchan Aruch is going to take the Rif, the Rush, and the Rambam, and is going to formulate a halacha pre-Shulchan Aruch. The Mechaber Yosef Karo of Sfat Yira Kodesh is going to write a perush on this in the Torah called the Beis Yosef. Let's find out what the Torah was going on. Tanya. Ein oimdin, with a nun mem, nun. Lihispalel, ela matok halacha psuka. That sounds like the answer, according to the Rambam and according to the Talmud. But he left out the inyanim of din and stam halacha and all the other Groiser Zachen from the Rishomi and the Rambam. He took a long sugya and really shortened it up and gave us the answer. Why? Shula ye libo tarud ba. Like the Shulchan Aruch wrote, and like the Rambam wrote. Now here's another question. This is the Chiddush. Hope you're paying attention. Why did the Mechaber and the Rambam and the Torah bring in the Leiv when the Talmud didn't tell me that, not the Bavli and not the Rishomi? Why are you changing the Girsa to say Leiv? I'm not interested. I only want to know the halacha. That's what people are going to say. Rabbi, tell me the halacha. Yet we have the poskim, Dafka bringing in, the Torah says don't add left or right to the Torah, and they apparently did. Rabbis are making statutes on tefillin and davening, right? Daven to Hashem in your heart. Why do we step in 3 times a day? Is that not adding to the Torah? So, lefi chochma, it's not adding. You take 2 things, you put it together, and you say, you mean tefillah? That's what they did. Where do we get the leiv from? Here we go. V'hainu nami kamo metoch simcha she'torah mismachto d'ksi pekudei Hashem yesharim mismachi leiv Yerushalmi Rabbi Yirmiyah oimer lo yamud adam b'izpalel ela metoch halacha perush d'yeh psuka k'memifrash the Gemara Didan. Listen to that chachma. The Torah is now going to base it on the Rush. Remember, he's going to take the Rambam, the Rush, and the Rif. So, to understand him, let's go to our friend, the Rush. The Rush is going to say like this. He's going to give the exact answer of Halakha Psuka. Okay, he copied his father. The Rosh's son was the Baal Torah. He's good. He's a chassid. And then he's going to explain like the Talmud that brings the women's impurity. Okay, they're just bringing this the Talmud Bavli and the answer. The Rosh was the Machadash here. He brought us the answer. Good enough for you? Then he brings Ein Oim Din, Lispal Elomato Schok, or Sicha, or Kalos Rosh, or Matok Dvar Batalim, Elamatok Simcha, V'chein Al Yifater Adam Echavero, Lo Matok Sicha, Elamatok Dvar Simcha. V'chein Ein Shechina Shora Al Yisrael, Elamatok Simcha. Shinem Mar V'asa Kach Uli Menagin V'haya Genagin Menagin Shechim B'tseinu B'neviyim B'shainim She'asayim V'divrayim V'divrei Shevef V'tachnunim L'kach Nagu Laimer B'disku Psuke D'Zimra Ashrei Koidem Tefila Kedei La'amod B'tefila Metok Dvar Simcha Shel Mitzvah She'asuk B'dat. There's that word dot. Divrei Torah. Rabbi Yishalmi, Rabbi Yirmiyah Oimer Lo Yamud Adam Yispalel Ela Metok Dvar Halacha Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah Ha'oisik Sarki Tzibor Ka'oisik B'Torah. You heard all that in the rush. You should have heard a little bit of Rambam with our shopping list from the Rishalmi. The rush made a chiddush and just told us right to the answer, Halacha Psuka, like the Bavli. He gave us a chiddush that this is what brings us to Simcha. In the real Halacha Psuka, something akin to when the Nevi'im would end their words with Devar Shevach, it would bring Simcha. So you should step into Tefillah with what? Simcha. That which brings you Simcha. What brings you Simcha? Either things like Psuke de Zimra, or Ashrei, or you say, quote me a pasuk. That's what you say. And you're right. But Psukim are not exactly as happy and laborious as King David singing with a harp. So that's why it has to be not just a pasuk, but Divrei Torah. Tell me a chiddush on the pasuk. Tell me the Meforshim Mikras Gedolos on the pasuk. Don't just quote the pasuk. That will bring you to Simcha, and that's where the Shekhinah dwells. As Hashem says, where does my Shekhinah dwell? Where do I derive Hana in this world? Dalet Amos of Tefillah. Then he goes on, and he quotes the Rishalmi, which says, Elamatot Devar Halacha, and that is under the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah. That's the end for our friend, the Rosh. Notice what the Rosh did. Why is he a great Rav? Because he gave you the Chiddush, he paskin on the Gemara, he brought you the Rishalmi, he gave you a Chiddush on Shechina, Simcha, Dvar Mitzvah, Halacha Psuka, he gave you everything. His son, the Baal Torah, seemed to have liked it. Now, the Rambam did a very similar Zach. He also gave you the Rishalmi. He also gave you the Halacha. He also inferred to you Simcha. Did you notice that the Rambam, he used the word Simcha in there? Let's look. Let's see. Did the Rambam say Simcha? Did that fly under the radar? Don't be upset. Don't fight. No, he didn't. He said your heart shouldn't be bothered. Right? Now, did the Rush tell us about our heart being bothered? No. So why did the Torah tell us that our heart shouldn't be bothered? Now we have what many people would call a machlaikis rishonim. Right? The Rambam's troubled with your heart, and the Rush is saying you should be happy. One says don't be bitter, one says be happy. You could say, I'm Hashem your God, you should have no other gods. Two sides to the same coin. The Rif then is going to bring us to his answer. L'spalel metoch din, ein oim din l'spalel metoch din v'halacha, ela metoch davar halacha psuka. And he's going to sound an awful lot like our friend the Mechaber. Pay attention again. Mechaber, ein oim din l'spalel. The Rif, ein oim din l'spalel. Only difference is the Rif has a nun, Mechaber has a mem. Metoch din v'halacha, metoch din v'lo metoch halacha. Very similar. Ela metoch devar halacha psuka. Ela metoch devar, here, ela metoch halacha psuka, here in the Rif. Elamatot dvar halacha psuka. Notice the differences. Now we've done the Rif. What does the Rif say? What does the Rif say? You should not be in din, you shouldn't be in halacha, you should be in a dvar halacha psuka. So not the din and not the halacha, it should be something official. And it's very terse, the Rif. Now can we hear it here in the Mechaber? Ein oyin dinuspala matoch din, velo matoch halacha. Very similar. Shelo yelibo taruba. A little bit of a more, like, why? He's going to tell you, your heart shouldn't be bothered. Maybe the Rif meant that. I don't know. Maybe. Whatever it is, his end result agrees with the Rush, and the Rif, and the Rambam, and the Rishomi, and the Bavli. Sounds like we have an answer, don't we? Everyone's agreeing on the answer. The what do you call the beginning? Not the prefix, the subject, or whatever that is. The beginning sounds the same. The end sounds the same. In the middle, we have a problem. Maybe you'd call this in Torah prat klalva prat. I don't know if this is an exact case of that. Al pidrush, I'm going to use that term. Prat klalva prat. Prat, ein mispalil. Klal, dvar halacha, din, dvarein, and ning, and the suk, and the sing, and that. In the end, halacha psuka. Prat. Now, back to our friend, the Torah. He's going to mention the Leiv. The Rambam mentioned the Leiv. The Mechaber mentions the Leiv. The Rif no, and the Rishomi no, and the Bavli no. Meaning the Rishonim want to go there, and the Chazal don't. Our friend the Beis Yosef, which is the same author of the Shulchan Aruch, only on the Torah. By the way, he's going to quote you the Rush and the Tosfos. And Tosfos is going to tell you, by the way, for the record, that you should daven lo yamod lispalel elamatot dvar halacha. There's that word dvar halacha. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, which is the Rishalmi, ha'isek b'tzarki tzibor, ha'isek b'divrei Torah dami. And before that we had Rabbanin Avdei Masnis Kavaisik Hamilan L'chein Ein Mispalel Matov Kolos Rosh. There's your Kolos Rosh. Schok Ela Matov Kovid Rosh. Simcha Shal Mitzvah Kigon Sha'isek B'divrei Torah. There's your Divrei Torah, like the Rambam. L'chein Nagu Loimer Psuki de Zimra Ashrei Koidem Tefila. You should bring in, if you don't want to do halakha stuff, you can bring in Psuki de Zimra and Ashrei. You've now seen in 10-15 minutes Tosfos, Rush, Rif, Tor, Shulchan Aruch, Bavli, Rishalmi. The only one I didn't bring in here was the Ramban. God willing, after class, I'll look at the Ramban. I forgot to bring the Ramban. Again, we still have not addressed the Leiv issue. Here's the Chiddush. Ready for this Chiddush? Here's the Chiddush. The reason why, this is Svara. I'm explaining the Svara of the Rishonim and Achronim. The reason why they're focusing on the Leiv. Really listen here. Why can't you stand in tefillah unless you're prepared? You must have what? Freedom of leiv. They don't want you in a sugya, in machlaikis, angry, scatterbrained. They want kavana haleiv. What's the mitzvah of tefillah deraisa? Serve God where? In your leiv. That's tefillah. That's halacha Moshe Messinai. These guys know that. And I'm not, they know that. I'm saying they know that. So the Gemara continues. Anything that takes away your leiv is not really tefillah, to which the Maggid Avram will say, you're better off not to daven. Go learn. The Gra says in his Perush on Mishlei, don't stop to daven if you're in the middle of an Iyun Sugya. If your leiv is messed up, don't daven. So he says, don't be in a matzav where your leiv is shvir. Then look at the Torah says. He mentions the leiv. And look at the very next words. You want Muslim learning? V'hainu nami kamo. Why can't you be bothered in your heart? Simcha she'Torah mismachto. Real Torah brings joy. As it says, Pekudei Hashem in Tehillim 19:9. There's your pasuk. Yisharim Mismachi Leiv. He brought a pasuk to get rid of your sfekis and machlekes. You would say there's a machlekes rishonim here, right? You say, oh, he says this, and he argues that, and he says this. He says no. If we didn't bring the next word to the Torah, you would say there's a machlekes. You wouldn't have paid attention to what you just learned. You would have stepped into tefillah, and you would have gone right back to going up instead of down. Continue reading. He says you should learn David HaMelech like the Yishvei Leiv. See what he just did? He brought a Leiv pasuk to satisfy your Leiv. The Nevi'im Rishonim brought Inyanim Leiv to satisfy your Leiv. You only daven from the heart when you have a heart. That's called Halacha Moshe Sinai. Because it just goes. So now when you have the Rambam bringing the heart, does that make sense now? They took the eitzes of the Nevi'im and all, and what davening is. You can say that the Rambam knows what tefillah is. The Torah reiterates by taking the Rambam, the Rif, the Rush. Rush didn't bring it, Rif didn't bring it, but the Rambam did, included. The Rush made a chiddush calling it halacha psuka. Did he do that? Yes, he did. And then he brought in the lashon of the Rif by saying which is not like the Rif, but he brought in the Rishomi, which was like the Rif. So the Torah really brought a likut of all the Rishonim, like he says he's coming to do. And it sounds a bit machlokesy. He makes you very happy by saying halacha psuka. I'm happy now. But then he continues in saying, and why? So you shouldn't have all this on your heart. So he's explaining it. It's nice. I'm happy. I can daven after having read him. And look what the Beis Yosef says. Lo ayin dispala lo matok din v'lo matok davar halacha. Why didn't he mention davar halacha here? Why didn't he only mention halacha? Why is he changing it up? Davar halacha elo matok halacha psuka uperush Rashi halacha psuka she'ein tzricha iyon shelo yemihir horba b'tfilah so. And that's going to be the end of the Torah and the Beis Yosef. Now we're back to our friend, the Mechaber. And we're going to now achieve our goal of understanding the Chiddush and the Shulchan Aruch. You've just now seen a lot of Shittas, and a lot of words, and a lot of days. Am I correct? And the goal is we want to be into Tefillah with our Leiv, Tahor, head down, covered Rosh. What I don't want is machlokes. I don't want to be pill-pulling it out. That's called Shulchan Aruch. Just like Moshe Rabbeinu was commanded to make a Shulchan Aruch, says Rashi, first Rashi in Parshas Mishpatim. You should make the Torah as edible fruit on a Shulchan Aruch, a set-out table. Aren't you happy to eat fruit? Would you like it if I invited you over, I made you cook me the meal and you the meal? Or would you rather come to edible fruit? The point is, the Torah should be done, laid out, ironed out and smooth, not working out all the shittas and deyas. Because until you get clarity, you're going to be lo nachon. We all know what lo nachon means, right? It's not oomph, not ready. And you're going to read the Rambam, and the Rif, and the Rosh, and the Tosfos, and all. You're going to say to machlokes rishonim, you missed pshat. Lagamre. Lagamre, you missed pshat. You did not go deep enough, and you're going to get up and go daven, and for all intents and purposes, lo b'seder shmona esrei. Because you're going to say, oh, that was great learning. No, it wasn't. Not according to the Lechad Chila Halacha L'Maisa. You should have it ironed out on your mind that you are coming to Simcha. Machlokes is not Simcha. When you're beating up your Chavrusa, telling him he didn't get, then and in and e, that's not, it's not Halacha. Now pay attention to Mechaber. Ein oimdim with a mem. This is my own svara. I'm not banking on this in the shir, but I do think it's true. When the Gemara says ein oimdim with a nun, the way you learn pshat there, pay attention. Tana Rabbanin. Ein oimdim with spalil. Lo matot din, lo matot dvar halacha. There's a colon after Tana Rabbanin, Ein Oimdim Lispalel. Stop! We don't daven. When do we daven? Lo matot din, v'lo matot dvar halacha. Stop! Ella, when do we daven? Metok halacha psuka. What do you call that? Shakti v'tarei, correct? Shakti v'tarei. That means there's a lot more to come. It's a very quick back and forth way to gain all the shitas in there. This is a vessel. The Gemara is a kli. So we stop, we think, we plug in, go again. This is not the Gemara. The Mechaber is not the Gemara. He is the opposite of the Gemara. He wants the Machlekes gone from your head. So how do I keep reading and not stop? Change the nun to a mem. Ein oimdim, in my mind as I learned this, tells me, Devo, keep reading through it, don't stop. In the Gemara, you stop. Once you stop, you're looking at Rashi. Once you look at Rashi, you're going to go to Tosfos. Once you go there, you're going to open up all the books, and you forgot what you were doing. You are now in Pilpul, which is where you don't daven. But if I want to go to Shulchan Aruch, I'm ready to daven. If he says, Ein oimdim lispalel, I'm going to keep going. It's nicer, refined language. It's refined language. Kabbalistically refined language. What is the Zohar? Refined language. When you refine your language to have great kavana in every letter, that is a mekubal. Is it a surprise that Rav Yosef Karo was a mekubal in Sfat in the era of the Arizal? Not a surprise. Ein oimdim lispalel, metoch din v'lo metoch halacha. Look how he broke that up. Don't call it din halacha. What is din? Pirkei Avos says be deliberate and din. It means you're working on the halacha. You're working on it. It's not the psak din. How do I know that? Rabbi Yirmiyah in the Brachas of Yerushalmi, he says din halacha. But when you look at the Perushim, as the Torah brought, saying like our Gemara, they all explain it so that he should not be an iyun, the hirhor, in his tefillah, says the Perushim in Yerushalmi. So there's din and din halacha. Notice he says din and not din halacha. Sounds like he has kavana, would you say? So you say, don't be in the middle of working it out. V'lo matoch halacha. And don't be matoch halacha, which is not din and not din halacha. What's halacha? It's the opposite of chachma. Chachma is at the end when you have it on your head, covered rosh, and it bends because you are in ecstasy, you're loving life, loving divrei Torah, loving dot, loving the Shechina, loving Simcha, loving your Chavrusa. Is that not the perfect time to daven? So then what is halacha? Halacha is when you know the Rambam, the Torah, the Rif, the Rush, but you haven't let it settle yet. You didn't go to the Shulchan Aruch and smear it out. You have all the shitas, but they're a bit machlekes stick in your head. Because they stick out. There's no octus yet. It's spheres of kalim. Then he says, Shelo ye libo taruba. If I'm not happy, I can't daven. When you have all the shitas in your head, you have a bit of Yirah Shamayim, but you don't have a Havis everything. Hashem, Israel, and Torah. Not yet. You have to step in with that Kishmak Halev. Ela metoch halacha psuka. When you get to the point when you can read the Shulchan Aruch and you see every single day here. Can you see every single day here? In one little blurb. Ein oimdim mispalel metoch din v'lo metoch halacha shlo yeh libo tarubah ela metoch halacha psuka. Is not everybody there? Is the Rif there? Halacha psuka, yes. Is the Rambam there? Halacha psuka, yes. In the Indian of Lev. Is the Rishalmi there? Yes. Everyone's here. The Torah, Beis Yosef, Rashi, Rush, Riv, Tosfos, they're all here. So what is halacha psuka? It's when the learning is like a pasuk in the Torah. Is there anything more refined than a pasuk in the Torah? No. And David Melech and Ashrei, is that not the etzim of refinement of Simchas of Torah? So when your Torah is so mamshis craftsmanship like a pasuk, this Shulchan Aruch right here is like a pasuk. And I'm not saying, oh, Rabbi Katz says it's on the dark of a pasuk. No. What we're saying is the joy of reading one little Mishnah of Shulchan Aruch. He's got it so worked out. It derives the same hana as a pasuk. What's a pasuk? Don't eat milk and meat, and give the meat to the ger and sell it to a nachri. There's no questions over there. Very clear. Hashem even says ger b'sharecha. No problem. We know it's not a Jew. Then he says sell it to the nachri. No problem. That's a goy. And don't cook a kid in his mother's milk. Very clear. This is so clear. You have that same type of refinement. That's called Kabbalah. Kabbalah gives that skill. If he would have said Ein Aimdin, right, then our brains are picking up the machlaikis, and I'm not so happy. Then I'm not satisfied. I'm looking through. I want to find more Perushim. No one's looking up Perushim on this halacha because it sounds mamish pashit. Because he put every single sheet in there. And if you don't look it up, you have no idea how much went into one Mishnah. And he did it perfectly by the letter, by changing the nun to the mem. Got me over the hump. I believe in him now. And he brings the whole thing through. And he doesn't call it a din halacha psuka. He calls it simply halacha psuka. This is a halacha. But he brought you the chachma. The Shulchan Aruch brought you the Chachma. It was not devoid of Chachma in the Halacha. That is Simcha Salev. That's the Shechina. That's where you have to be when you step into Davin Shmona Esrei. You're learning what you did wherever you were. Plenty of books to learn. Get it to the point where it's so in your head. No machlaikis, like a Shulchan Aruch, like a pasuk. You can just sing it out where your words are shagura, flowing off your tongue. That's called halacha psuka. It's not halacha, and it's not din. It's halacha psuka, which is an inyan of chachma, which is an inyan of halacha Moshe Sinai. You have the ability to machadish any words of Torah you want. You. When you get all the Torah down, it becomes deraisa, meaning divrei Torah, meaning dat, meaning your simcha, which means giloi shechina, which is a greiser chiddush. We can say Torah in your name, halach l'Moshe Sinai. Why? It just has to be said. Like the daughters of Slafchad with Moshe, it just has to be said. If you know the Chachma, and you know the Inyan, and you know how they go together, the David HaMelech calls it a miracle. There's Maisa, just things go together. But that's not a big deal. Then there's Poyel, when you're working on it out, and the Niflaos, two things that don't generally go, and God makes it go. You don't have the power to make a Chiddush. Kabbalah says, Nishmat Moshe came in you, made you a Talmid Chacham, and made you make that Chiddush. It was actually a miracle. Why were the Chassidim Rishonim allowed to daven 3 hours a day each time they daven? So the Meforshim says, they had a nace. We don't have the Muna, says the commoner, to sit around and work on an hour before, hour during, and an hour after. We're going to daven 9 hours a day, they say. But if you have a nace in your learning, siyata d'shmaya, niflaos, then you make the chidushim. Then you get the Kabbalah. Then it's your shtickle prophetic. Says the Brisker Rav, the Bechin of Eliyahu, bringing back the Kabbalah, Kabbalah Torah Shebal Peh, Kabbalah of the Navi, which goes from Navi to Navi. Read the Brisker Rav on Parshas Pinchas and Sefer Malachi. That's called Mochin the Godless in Kabbalah. When it's so, it's heavy on you cannot do this at that point. Your head just drops. It's so thick with fluid of Torah, you drop your head. It's called Mochin the Godless. That is Simcha, because there's nothing else to say. You've worked out the entire thing. You can now write a sefer on what you're doing. It's all a chiddush. That's how your learning should be every day. And when you step into tefillah, Mochin the Godless, to be b'simcha, you are just mechadish dat, divrei Torah, deraisa. Unlike the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva that were in, the machlekes, this and that. The idea is the Shulchan Aruch is the inyan of halacha Moshe Sinai. I can't read my notes on this one. Right? What does that say? I can't read. I don't know. Moshe Sinai again is taking the elements and putting them together, realizing the word Din should be Din. Realizing that din should be separated from the word halacha. Look what he did. Din halacha, he realized, if I separate that, the whole thing comes down. One big kli. Everyone's calling it a din halacha. He says, why? What am I going to do, put 20,000 dayas in here? If I put 20,000 dayas in here, it's another machlekes again, isn't it? Then we lost the simcha leiv. Now we're bothered in our heart. So everyone that learns the Shulchan Aruch says he's a hypocrite. You told me to daven with a pure heart, then you ruined my heart. He realizes if we split the atom here, din and halacha is a hakdama to halacha psuka. Then you have, in the Rishomi, it doesn't make sense. The Rosh says, Rabbi Yirmiyah, Amar Reish, Aleph Reish, Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah. And then there's two different gearses. One is, I remember, was din shel Torah. I forget what it was, din halacha, or dvar Torah, and din shel halacha, right? Or vice versa. And the Rosh quotes it differently. But if you remember, there are two quotes in the Rishomi. One is, let me read it to you, just for context. Ready? The Rosh quotes on this. Don't tell me I lost a page. Let's see. Chapter 5. Halacha Aleph. Let's see. Paragraph 5. Halacha Aleph. Where did it go? 1 second. Threw out the page. Chapter 5. Well, chapter 1, Halacha 5, sorry. Chapter 1, Halacha 5. 1, Halacha days. There we go. Here we go. One second. Do you remember if it was chapter 5? Or... 1 second. Must have been chapter 5. 1 second. Chapter 5. Halacha Aleph. Chapter 5. Halacha Aleph. It's not so negated to this year, but I'd like to see it inside. I lost the source. Alright, but the point is, the Rishomi, I lost my bookmark. Rishomi is going to do two gearses. Listen to this. One is Rebbe Yirmiyah, Reish Beis Yud. One is Rav Yirmiyah, Reish Beis. How's that for a chiddush? We don't know which one. Because the Rosh only says Amar Reish Yirmiyah. So you would say, the Rosh wasn't being makbid. He wasn't being medayak. He got the girsa wrong. Right? Got the girsa wrong. And then those are the people that look through the Torah for little problems. Right? Oh, we can't be medayak here because it's a girsa problem. We made a mistake. Torah's wrong. The spell's wrong. What if the Rosh wrote Aleph Tik Tik Reish with Kavana? You would think he's quoting the one as Pashit Rebbe Yirmiyah. But then he quotes the other girsa. But by making a Rosh Tevis, he again turns Torah Machlaikis into a Keli. Now it's Sveidinim. One mimer of the Rosh becomes a Keli for two Inyanim. Again, turning Machlaikis into Simchas Leiv. No Machlaikis, turning it into love of Torah. And again, we see the same thing with the Machaber. Right? You'll say, okay, he wasn't Madayak, he says a mem, and the Gemara says a nun. But if you change it a little bit, you turn Machlaikish, Viras a Kalim, Nikudot into a Kali. The Kali now turns the Machlaikis on the Leiv into Simchas Leiv. In your head, it's all a bunch of Kalim, and you're all, Rogiz, it's time to pray. No. Turn it into not Rogiz, turn it into Ahava, in Simcha, in the Shechina, i.e. be a better Keli. How do you make the Keli? Makabah Patish, as in Hilchos Shabbos. Make the Keli. Bring it to the point of Achdus, in unity, in good tasting fruit. In other words, a Shulchan Aruch. You should be able to give it over without Machlaikis. That's when you can step to daven. The Shechina is in this space of no Machlaikis. Is davening not the Shechina? Are you not stepping into the Shechina to daven? So the answer is don't daven like somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. Right? You want to affect the world. You want to draw down Shefa. You are stepping to talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Don't be doing this. Be doing this. Enter from Shechina to Shechina. Then your tefillas come out Shagura. Hashem is listening. You will draw down the Shefa. All your chidushim, you're speaking into creation, and you're bringing it into the world. That's what Dvar we learned from Moshe and Aaron, where Aaron had a chiddush, and Moshe was angry. I think we learned it from the Beis Yosef, actually. I think it was somebody's father, the Beis Yosef. They spoke a chiddush, and he couldn't work on it, and he had just got it, and some guy in the street said the same chiddush. Why? You speak it out, it comes down, and then it's hefker for everybody. Point being now, we're going to close on this. Look at all these little buzzwords. Din, Dvar. What's a Dvar halacha? Now we should ascertain what's a Dvar halacha. What's a Dvar Torah? It's nice. But it doesn't make you happy. You don't walk away going, wow, I got the secrets of the universe. I got to go daven. A Dvar Torah is supposed to be the opposite. It's supposed to bring table talk at Shabbos, spark some debate, discussion. Why? So you can hash it out, end the machlekes in your heart, everyone on the same page, be in love, have the Shekhinah at your table, because if the Shekhinah is not at your table, it's a table of scoffers and Avodah Zorah, according to Pirkei Avos. So a Dvar Torah is not meant to be the end. So it says Dvar, it's not the end, but Divrei Torah, that's something else. Divrei Torah is the sum of your entire dot. Meaning like, Ad Kan, what do I believe? The sum of all your Torah. What did we say? That even if your Torah, one thing is not included, your whole Torah is puzzle. Right? Kol Torah kula yatzim chutz medavar achad. Your whole Torah has got to be an Achdus. So when you get your Torah on this level of Achdus, all of it makes sense. You fix all your kalim. None shari bina for all that you're concerned with. And you go into daven and you will be answered and Hashem is listening. And that's how you bring the mazel. That's how there's mazel in learning. Mazel in learning means that even the Sefer Torah and the Heichel is bound by mazel. So you'll say, okay, it's a letter change, it's a word. These are mazel entities. They carry with it, mamish, that level of the Sefer Torah and the Heichel coming to you. The Mechaber meditated and brought down these words in Kalim, putting the Kalim together to basically wipe out the Tarmadoy, says Rothschild of Sfat, right? When you put together letters to make words, it's to make a Keli, I can read it to you, right? Putting the Keli to bring the Or and Shefa to have a revelation of God. Anything short of that, God is not your priority, and it's on the outside. We're saying don't daven like that. Daven with the Giloy HaKadosh Baruch Hu by realizing the mazel in the words that came together miraculously by God. And I'll read it one more time. And I'm going to ask you, do you hear a chiddush at the end? The Gemara says, Tana Rabban, Ein Omdin Bispalel lo matok din v'lo matok dvar halacha ela matok halacha psuka. And they say, what's the example? Like a halacha Moshe Sinai case of Tamei women. I don't know what that means. That's Machlekes City. You get all the Rishonim on that. Halacha Maisa. Ein Omdim Bispalel matok din v'lo matok halacha shelo yihei libo tarud ba ela matok halacha psuka. Everything was here. Every Rishon, every Talmud, every Chazal, the whole Inyan, Gufa, of the, if he would have brought the Machlekes, it would have been so hypocritical and counterproductive. He's saying, hey, go daven and let me ruin your davening before you daven. Here we say, how do you daven? With a good heart, a good calm heart. Did he calm your heart? If you learn the Sugi and then you learn it with this Shulchan Aruch, your heart will be calm. Then you're able to daven and you have an entire breadth of learning under your belt. How do you stand happily before Hashem? Learn it until your learning is halacha psuka. When you do that, you will be answered in your tefillahs. In the Eitz HaTov I want to give, look up the buzzwords. And these words, each one of these words can be a world. Din, Devar, halacha. And the art of that is Zohar. The Ikarim of Shari Ur is also that. Knowing these words, the art of refining the words. You see, the Mechaber was a master. And he doesn't have to agree with the Arizal and the Rambam. Rambam's got his totally separate trip. But did he come to joy? Yeah. He did the same set of ingredients and cooked it his way. He took the same, the Torah, took the same ingredients and did it his way. The Mechaber was a special fellow. He wrote the Shulchan Aruch. He took everybody and made tremendous joy. And B'ezrat Hashem, he brought Nachas Ruach to his maker. Hopefully we brought Nachas Ruach to our maker. Increasing dot, Divrei Torah, Deraisa, Lach Moshe B'Sinai, Achdus and Am Yisrael, Giloi Shechina in the world, bringing Mashiach one step closer from Sfat. And all I can say is Torah is great. It brings simcha to the heart. Hopefully we made Hashem happy. And God willing, we can all step into our Shemona Esrei a little happier and a little more joy, bring down a little more shefa, and spread the light of Torah to the entire world. Thank you.